There are moments in life when everything seems still, too still. You look around and wonder if God has forgotten your name, if the heavens have gone silent, if your prayers are bouncing off the walls of your heart. You've been waiting, hoping, trusting, and still nothing seems to move. But listen to me, my friend. When God is silent, He is not absent. When nothing seems to be happening, everything is being prepared, because God is about to shake your life with abundant favor. That shaking won't destroy you. It will awaken you. It won't break you. It will bless you. You've cried long enough. You've carried the weight long enough. And heaven has taken note of your endurance. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean God isn't working behind the scenes. When God shakes your life, it's not to take something from you. It's to make room for what He's about to give you. I once met a man who had lost everything he owned. His business collapsed, his health deteriorated, and his friends disappeared. For months, he told me, he felt as if his world was falling apart piece by piece. But one night he fell on his knees and said, God, if you're breaking me, let it be, because you're about to build me again. And I tell you today, within a year, doors began to open he never imagined existed. His testimony became louder than his tragedy. That man discovered that sometimes God has to shake the ground beneath your feet to reveal the solid rock of His promises. Maybe that's you right now. Maybe the ground beneath you feels unstable. Your plans are failing, your strength is fading, your dreams seem far away. But remember, the shaking is not punishment, it's preparation. You see, when God gets ready to pour out favor, He first removes what cannot hold it. The very things you thought were secure may have to be shaken so God can replace them with what's eternal. Think about it. Before God blessed Joseph with authority in Egypt, he shook his life. Betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, locked in prison. His world was turned upside down. But when the shaking was over, Joseph stood in a palace wearing a crown. What was meant to destroy him became the very path to his destiny. If God could do it for Joseph, He can do it for you. When God's favor comes, it doesn't ask for permission. It breaks through walls, it opens doors, it defies logic. Favor is when you receive blessings you didn't earn, opportunities you didn't expect, and strength you didn't know you had. You might not be able to explain it, but everyone will be able to see it. And that's what God is preparing right now. A favor so visible that even your enemies will have to admit the Lord has done great things for them. But before the favor, there's always the shaking. And the shaking can be uncomfortable. It can feel like you're losing control. Yet, in those moments, God is rearranging the pieces of your life into something beautiful. He's pulling away what was temporary so He can establish what's eternal. Don't fight the shaking. Embrace it. Don't curse the process. Trust it. Because the shaking means heaven is moving in your direction. Do you remember the story of the disciples on the boat during the storm? The winds were howling, the waves were crashing, and their faith was trembling. But what they didn't realize was that the shaking of that storm was the stage for a miracle. Jesus didn't calm the storm before He reached them. He came walking through it. The storm that frightened them became the path through which His power was revealed. Maybe the storm you're facing isn't a sign that God has left you. It's a sign that He's on His way. There are people listening tonight who've been asking God for a sign. You've said, Lord, if you're still with me, show me. My friend, this message is your sign. God hasn't forgotten you. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. You're standing on the edge of a divine shift, and when it comes, it won't come quietly. It will shake everything that's not anchored in His purpose. And when that shaking comes, don't be afraid. Don't run from it. Stand firm. Because when the shaking stops, you'll see that what was removed was never meant for you. And what remains is everything you need to step into your next season. God is about to open doors you didn't even knock on. He's about to elevate you in ways that will leave people wondering how it happened so fast. But you'll know it was favor. You see, God's favor doesn't follow the rules of the world. The world says you have to qualify, you have to compete, you have to prove yourself. But God says, I will bless whom I choose to bless. His favor isn't earned, it's appointed. You can't manipulate it, you can't manufacture it, but you can receive it when you surrender everything to Him. When you walk in God's favor, even your past mistakes become part of your testimony. What once brought you shame will now bring Him glory. The pain that made you weep will become the story that makes others believe. God can turn your wilderness into a well, your tears into triumph, your weakness into worship. That's what His abundant favor does. It transforms everything it touches. And listen to me closely. God's favor doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your perspective. When you know that God's hand is on you, you stop panicking in the storm and start praising in the struggle. You stop worrying about who's against you because you know who's for you. That's when you walk differently. You speak differently. You dream differently. Because favor gives you confidence that your life is not at the mercy of chance. It's in the hands of a faithful God. So if you're weary tonight, hold on. If you're tired of waiting, don't give up. Your breakthrough is closer than it appears. The shaking you feel is the sound of destiny unfolding. God is about to breathe life into what you thought was finished. He's about to resurrect what you thought was dead. And when He does, you'll look back and say, it was worth every tear, every trial, every test. A God is about to shake your life, not to break you, but to bless you. Not to punish you, but to position you. He's about to lift you, favor you, and use you as a living testimony of His grace. So stand tall, lift your head, and open your heart. Because heaven is moving, and your season of abundant favor is about to begin. There are seasons when life begins to tremble beneath your feet, when everything you thought was stable starts to shift, and you can't understand why. You pray, you trust, and yet the shaking doesn't stop. It's as if God Himself is rearranging the walls of your soul. But what feels like destruction is often divine preparation. God shakes not to harm you, but to prepare you for the favor He is about to release. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what you cannot yet understand. And while you may think things are falling apart, God is actually putting things into place. Sometimes God has to disrupt what's comfortable to deliver what's miraculous. If He didn't shake you, you'd settle. If He didn't move the foundation, you'd stay in a place too small for your destiny. You've been asking for increase, for purpose, for favor, but you can't step into something new while still holding on to what's old. God's shaking is His way of clearing the space. It's His divine construction process. Before a building rises, the ground must be broken. Before a harvest grows, the soil must be turned. And before favor comes, your life must be shaken, so that only what is meant to remain will stand. When God begins to shake things, it doesn't always make sense. You lose relationships that once felt unbreakable. Doors you depended on suddenly close, and opportunities vanish without warning. You cry out, wondering if you've done something wrong. But no, this isn't punishment. It's positioning. God knows the weight of the blessing He's about to give you, and He won't allow you to build it on unstable ground. He removes the counterfeit so He can reveal the authentic. What you thought you needed, He takes away. What you thought was gone forever, He replaces with something greater. Think of Joseph. His entire life was shaken before favor found him. His brothers betrayed him. His reputation was stained. His freedom was stolen. From the outside, it looked like his life was being torn apart. But heaven saw something different. God was aligning every event, every trial, every tear to position Joseph for purpose. The pit was not the end. It was preparation. The prison was not a curse. It was a classroom. And when the time came, the shaking stopped, and Joseph stood in the palace, clothed in authority, walking in the very favor that the shaking had prepared him for. You might be standing in your own pit right now, unable to see how this pain could ever have a purpose. But the same God who lifted Joseph will lift you. The same God who turned the storm into strength will turn your shaking into a shift. Don't mistake discomfort for abandonment. God is closest when He's shaking what no longer serves your destiny. Every closed door, every delay, every disappointment is heaven's way of saying, I'm making room for more. And what is that more? It's abundant favor. The kind of blessing that exceeds what your mind can imagine. But here's the truth. Abundant favor cannot rest on a foundation of complacency. It cannot flow into a vessel already full of fear, pride, or doubt. So God shakes you to empty you. He shakes you to refine you. He shakes you until everything in your life aligns with His purpose. Because when favor finally comes, you'll be ready to carry it, not crumble under its weight. The shaking exposes what's weak so God can strengthen what's real. It reveals the cracks you never noticed, the habits that hinder your faith, the relationships that drain your purpose. It's not cruelty, it's craftsmanship. God is a master builder, and He doesn't construct greatness on shallow ground. He digs deep, He uproots, He clears, and only then does He plant the seed of favor that will flourish for generations. Maybe you're praying for God to stop the shaking. But what if the shaking is the very answer to your prayer? You asked for growth, and growth requires movement. You asked for purpose, and purpose demands change. You asked for blessings, and blessings need space to fall. The shaking isn't against you. It's working for you. It's breaking what needs to be broken and shaping what needs to be strengthened. It's God's way of saying, I'm getting you ready for something bigger than you thought possible. When you finally understand this truth, the shaking no longer terrifies you. You stop clinging to what's leaving and start preparing for what's coming. You start recognizing that what's shaking loose from your life wasn't meant to last. The shaking is a sign that heaven has taken interest in your situation, that the wait is almost over, that the atmosphere around you is shifting. Because before favor rains down, the clouds must first begin to move. Before destiny unfolds, there must first be a divine disturbance. So when you feel everything trembling, when you can't see the path ahead, remember this: God's shaking is not destruction, it's construction. It's His divine preparation for the abundant favor He has already written into your story. Before God elevates a person, He transforms them. Elevation is not a reward for talent or effort. It's the result of preparation. God will never take you higher until He knows the foundation beneath you is strong enough to sustain the blessing above you. You may have been praying for promotion, for breakthrough, for increase, but God is more interested in who you are becoming than where you are going. Before He releases favor, He refines character. Before He trusts you with more, He shapes your heart to handle it. That is why transformation always comes before elevation. When God begins to transform you, the process often feels painful. He starts by removing things that can't survive in your next season. Relationships, habits, attitudes, even certain dreams. It can feel like loss, but it's actually protection. God knows that some things look good on the surface, but are dangerous to your destiny. So He begins to strip away everything that would collapse under the weight of favor. It's not rejection. It's redirection. The shaking you feel isn't meant to destroy you, but to purify you. It's God making sure that when the blessing comes, it doesn't bury you. Transformation requires surrender. You can't be who you were and become who God is calling you to be at the same time. You can't hold on to the old mindset, the old fears, and expect to walk in new authority. God is calling you to release what is familiar so He can reveal what is greater. That's why He sometimes leads you through seasons of silence where your prayers seem unanswered and your plans fall apart. In those moments, He's not ignoring you. He's instructing you. He's teaching you to depend not on outcomes, but on obedience. He's training your spirit to listen even when you can't see. Think about Moses. Before he stood before Pharaoh, before he led Israel across the Red Sea, he spent 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years of transformation before a single day of elevation. God took a man who was once impulsive, angry, and self-reliant and shaped him into a humble leader who could carry a nation. That time in the wilderness wasn't wasted. It was necessary, because without the transformation and solitude, Moses could not have stood in authority before kings. The same is true for you. The waiting is not punishment. It's preparation for what's coming. Transformation is not a single moment. It's a continual process. Every time you grow, every time you endure a trial, every time you choose faith over fear, God is molding your spirit to match your calling. He's chiseling away pride, impatience, and doubt. He's softening your heart so that when He blesses you, you'll use that blessing to lift others, not to exalt yourself. God cannot elevate what has not been purified. He can't pour new wine into old wineskins. So He breaks the old so He can rebuild you in His image. And this process, though uncomfortable, is holy, because transformation produces depth, and depth attracts divine favor. When you've walked through the fire and come out refined, you carry something that surface-level success can never produce: authentic faith. People can sense it in your words, your presence, your peace. That's why God allows you to go through storms others may never face. He's setting you apart, shaping your soul to reflect His glory, so that when elevation comes, you'll handle it with grace, not pride. Look at David. Anointed as a shepherd boy, He didn't immediately sit on the throne. He faced rejection, danger, betrayal, and long nights of uncertainty. Yet in every trial, God was transforming him, teaching him courage, humility, patience, and worship. By the time David became king, he wasn't the same boy who once stood in the pasture. The transformation shaped his character, and that character sustained his calling. Without the journey through caves and deserts, the crown would have crushed him. You might be in that same space right now, between anointing and appointing, between promise and fulfillment. You can feel that God has called you higher, but you're still walking through the refining fire. Don't despise this season. God is removing what cannot go with you into the next level. He's cutting off spiritual weight that would slow you down. He's replacing old fears with new faith. He's teaching you to trust His timing instead of forcing your own. Every great elevation in the Bible was preceded by transformation. Abraham left everything familiar before becoming the father of nations. Esther faced the threat of death before stepping into royal favor. Even Jesus spent years in obscurity before his public ministry began. Transformation comes first because it prepares you to handle visibility, influence, and blessing without losing your humility or your dependence on God. When God begins to transform your life, it may not look like progress. It may look like delay, like disappointment, like unanswered prayers. But what you can't see is that the roots are growing deeper. The deeper the roots, the higher the tree can rise. God is establishing your foundation so that when He finally elevates you, you won't be shaken by success, tempted by pride, or overwhelmed by pressure. You'll stand firm, anchored in the strength that only transformation can build. When God begins to move in your life, it rarely looks the way you imagine. His timing confuses you, His methods surprise you, and His process tests you. But everything He allows, everything He removes, every door He opens or closes is part of a perfect design. The shaking, the refining, the transformation, all of it is working together to lead you into a season of divine favor. You may not understand the journey right now, but one day you'll look back and realize that nothing was wasted. Every tear watered the soil of your breakthrough. Every setback prepared you for a comeback you could not have achieved without it. There is a moment when heaven decides, now is the time. You've endured the pruning, you've trusted through the silence, and suddenly, what once seemed delayed begins to unfold with divine speed. That's what abundant favor looks like. It doesn't follow the world's pace. It follows heaven's purpose. When God says it's your time, no power in hell can hold you back. The same shaking that once made you tremble will become the testimony that strengthens your faith. The same wilderness that once felt endless will become the place where you discovered the voice of God. God's favor is not a gentle breeze. It's a mighty wind that changes everything it touches. It rearranges circumstances, reverses verdicts, restores lost years, and revives dreams you thought were gone forever. But it only rests on those who've allowed the process to purify their hearts. Favor without transformation would destroy you, but favor after the fire, that kind of favor lasts. That kind of favor carries weight. It's favor with substance. Favor that cannot be shaken by storms or stolen by men. You might still be waiting for that breakthrough, still wondering if God has forgotten you. But hear this, He hasn't forgotten. He's preparing the stage. He's setting the scene. And when the curtain rises, You'll see that every hidden season had a purpose. The hands that broke you were the same hands that were building you. The moments that made you question everything were the very moments that strengthened your roots. You are not behind, you are being built. When the shaking ends, when the refining is complete, and when the favor begins to overflow, you'll stand in awe, not of your strength, but of God's faithfulness. You'll realize that it was never about surviving the storm. It was about being shaped by it. God doesn't just want to bless you. He wants to make you a blessing. He doesn't just want to lift you. He wants your life to lift others. That's the ultimate purpose of abundant favor. To turn your story into a source of hope for those still walking through their own shaking. So hold your head high, not because the journey has been easy, but because God has been present. The shaking was never your ending. It was your awakening. The transformation was never your loss. It was your launch. And now, as the heavens open and God releases His abundant favor, you will step into a future so full of grace, purpose, and divine promise that you'll know beyond all doubt.